Well, good morning and welcome to Rector Reflections. One of the things that I really found interesting about last Sunday's lectionary reading is that we had such rich text. So I'm going to try to dig into a few different ones that we didn't even hit on Sunday. One of the fun ones was the story of Rachel and Leah. That's a great story, but we're obviously working through the book of Romans, so we didn't have time to do that on Sunday. But here's the beauty and the amazing story of Jacob, Rachel, and Leah. Jacob is this kind of, his name means trickster or scoundrel, and he tricks his dad Isaac into giving him his birthright rather than his brother Esau, and then he runs away to a far off land to escape the vengeance of his brother Esau. And guess what? He finds a guy who's even more of a trickster than he is. His uncle Laban is even more of a scoundrel and swindler than he is. But his uncle says, look, if you work hard for me, you can marry my daughter Rachel, and then it'll all be fine. So he works 7 hard years, and guess what? That wedding night, he's super excited. There he is. He's going to marry Rachel, and then his trickster uncle says, "By the way, you thought you were marrying Rachel, but you had a wee bit too much to drink, and you wake up, and the next morning, what does it say? What is in our text? And the next morning, it was Leah and not Rachel." That's a bit like how sometimes we feel in life. Sometimes we feel like life is supposed to be this whole thing that it's a better experience, or we have these expectations of how it should turn out, and then it just doesn't. It's kind of like, bummer, dude. It just doesn't work out the way they want. That's how Jacob felt. Now, here's the thing: is Jacob had his heart set on Rachel. Scripture tells us that Leah had weak eyes. Now, weak is either a nice way of saying that she was not appealing on the eyes, or that she had bad eyesight. We're not really sure which of those two it could be, but either way, it's not a flattering description for Leah. The beauty of this whole thing is that, well, Laban obviously swindles Jacob. Jacob has to work another 7 years in order to get his Rachel instead of his Leah. And so all the while, Rachel is the one that feels loved. Leah is the one that feels unwanted and unloved. And I'd always read that passage, the story of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and as these being the ancestors of Jesus, and obviously Jesus being descended from Jacob. But what most of us don't realize, and we fail to see unless you actually dig into the scriptures, that this is an amazing story of grace, of the gospel, is that even though Jacob had his eyes set on Rachel and loved Rachel, Rachel's son was Joseph. Who were some of Leah's sons? Well, we know that Leah had the firstborn, and that Leah also had Judah. Judah is the great grandfather of Jesus. It's amazing that God chooses Leah even when Jacob wanted to choose Rachel. God, that is the story of grace. God chooses the weak, the little, the small. It's never Saul, it's always David. It's never Rachel, it's always Leah. That is the story from cover to cover, from Genesis to Revelation. The story of the gospel is that when we were still weak and dead in sin and our trespasses, God chose us. God loved us. So even when Leah felt unloved, God loved Leah. May you feel loved this week. God bless you, and thanks for tuning in to these Rector's Reflections.